Guys who gave the crazy girl a chance. What happened? Story 1. Shocking hookup destroys my entire life.
I spent a few months just hanging out at her house, building bonfires and drinking, detoxing from all the stuff we used to do and bonding, talking. Felt like a dream. We improved each other a lot in that time, but then, one day I found out that the anxiety medication she'd been giving me since roughly the first week of knowing her was actually painkillers, and I'd been taking them for the past 6-7 months daily while drinking. I got angry and confronted her, to which she apologized but offered no explanation. It took me a week to even want to talk to her again, and when we did, she played it off as being super apologetic. Sorry. I say playing it off because the next time I saw her, she invited me over to her house just to sleep with some random dude in the next room who she met on a cruise 5 years ago, not even 30 minutes into me being there. I was mad again, but me being the tolerant guy I am, decided, screw it, you are a call girl, but a call girl I enjoy spending time with. So I decided to stay friends and forget any chance or thought of us being together. Then we hung out at my house one day to smoke with a few of my friends. While we were there, she went inside to use the bathroom. My buddy went inside for some water, and then 15 minutes later I walk in thinking to myself, what the hell is taking so long? Only to find them screwing in my bed. Kicked them out. Never saw them again. That was the last time I pursued a woman who I actually liked. Turns out, I should avoid the women I like the plague, because I apparently like extremely crazy and toxic women, the crazier the better, judging by my track record.
I think he might need a serious reality check and a long break from dating. Story 2. Manipulative woman's sick social strategy.
She gave me the runaround, first slowly dripping the crazy on me so that I constantly lowered my standards for the level of sanity I expected from her. First problem was that she constantly cycled in new dudes to be friends who wanted to sleep with her. After observing her patterns for a while, I realized it was because she would always ruin all of her friendships in about a month, so she would constantly find new friend groups full of dudes so she could harvest dude who wants to do you energy for a few weeks of attention and texting. All her friends were guys because women wouldn't tolerate her for long, but male attention was easy, and she usually had about a month's window. When she got bored of me, she made a fake Discord profile and messaged herself as if she was an ex-girlfriend of mine with stories about how I use women for intimacy, etc, etc. But the whole thing immediately made no sense to me, so I knew it was either her or one of her friends trying to make her upset so that he could console her. And now the consequence is that I have to live with an intimate fixation. She got me into that 99.9% of women can't and won't do as well. She liked to be roughened, as if I didn't care whether she lived, and no sane woman is letting me do that. That was how she compensated for her personality, I guess, was just hypersexuality.
Story 3. Nightmare girlfriend haunts my life.
I tried for 2 or 3 years, off and on. She'd be all excited about dating me, and then 3 or 4 weeks into it, she'd bail. During all of this, she would go through extensive searches in alternative therapies. Not to bag on some, but it was weird potions and herbs, and an acupuncturist that I swear was manipulating her romantically. She even went to this retreat, where they weren't allowed to speak for like 2 weeks, ate very little, and had to sit in one position for hours on end and listen to tapes of some dude talking and low-key brainwashing them. I begged for her to switch therapists. I offered to pay for it and go with her, whatever it took. Towards the end, she started being convinced that her Brazilian housemaid could see the spirits, and she was petrified that her house and my house was haunted. She broke up with me again and I blocked her on everything, but she used her work email to email me and begged for another chance. We started seeing each other again. Mind you, for all of these years, I did everything. I helped her when she was sad, helped her with home repairs and renovations, took her on dates and adventures that she said she was dreaming of, and was always patient and caring. Well, she starts getting a little weird again, and I start to see red flags. Weekend trips with friends, holidays where it was just family invited, but I found out that she had an old friend with her. Again, I was begging her to get help and to open up. She ended up sending me an email at 2 a.m. telling me that she had been dating 2 men at once, and that she was sorry and she was going to date the other guy instead. I think she was pregnant, TBH, because it was all silent. And then she announced to our mutual friends that she had gotten married and that there was a reception like 3 days away. I truly hate how many friends were so supportive of her after what she did. I still won't talk to most of them. I didn't keep track, but I heard about a baby shower sometime after the wedding. I'm glad they moved to a city about 2 hours from where I live. Never again. I can handle mental illness, but not untreated, and not when it involves secrecy and lies.
Story 4. Betrayed by crazy girlfriend.
She was still in love with her ex. She had a whole drawer of notebooks from over the years she'd written to and about him. She had his kid and he cheated on and left her before it was born sometime 11 years ago. Slept with a bunch of guys since. She was cool and 100% my type, so I went in head first. Intimacy was awesome, but too many weird things happened. Was double standard crazy. I couldn't have women friends even on Facebook or hang out with the guys, or I'd be accused of cheating. Never did anything or talk to anyone. I had my own place, but I'd stay at hers for weeks. But she'd randomly accuse me of sleeping with any woman in my life. A boss, someone between work and my way home. However, she had tons of guy Facebook friends. She had all the reasons why she didn't delete. Kid's dad would call back to back if she didn't answer. Even pushed the kid down when he had him. She made excuses for her and justified everything. Told her how it made me feel and she'd accuse me of something else and kick me out and break up. The end of the week, she'd call me back over. Every 1 or 2 weeks, she'd do this. One of these times, a customer gave me her number the same night, and we did stuff. The ex found out. Held it over my head as cheating since. It wasn't. She treated the kid like her husband, had zero boundaries and gave him everything he asked for, or he'd yell and refuse her direction. I put in work with him, helped with failing grades. Even tonight, him basic cooking and how to tie his shoes at 11. Still couldn't seem to do anything right but intimacy with her. I'd bring little snacks and gifts every day from work for them both. Picked the kid up so she didn't have to. Cooked, cleaned, everything I thought I should. Still, I'd always get accused of cheating with no reason and kicked out. I drank for 20 years and quit for her. She didn't support or encourage me, just accused me of continuing. She'd go through my phone, so I'd go through hers. Always new guys showing up. Not a single woman on mine. I knew I was being cheated on, but I found nothing concrete.
Story 5. Transgender journey meets madness.
I almost went bankrupt trying to keep up with her lifestyle. In my defense, I was an extremely late bloomer and had just come out of the closet as trans. She is a well-off individual who was prepared to show me the world. I missed out on quite a lot growing up and made up for it in spades with her. Week-long, all-inclusive Caribbean cruise, week-long trip to Vegas where we saw like 9 shows in 5 days and gambled on the strip and did a shot of some of the finest cognac on the planet. Honestly, I prefer the taste of cheap stuff. If we weren't traveling like that, then we were taking random road trips or making names for ourselves at local bars and clubs well into the early hours of the next morning. Oh yeah, we went to Burning Man too. Not one in New Mexico, a smaller but still rather large regional event. There's quite a bit more, I'm sure. I don't remember quite a bit, though, due to the monolithic amount of drinks involved and, of course, substances on occasion. There was one point I vaguely remember sitting in a hotel hot tub with her, both of us surrounded by many empty glasses of cocktails and realizing this was a rock and roll lifestyle. We broke up almost exactly at the year mark. She got bored and is off somewhere, still living that lifestyle. What got me through the year was pure adrenaline and, of course, love. The breakup was not easy on me at all. I'm rebuilding my finances in the meantime and doing the work to decide which parts of that lifestyle I want and which I want to let go. To top all that off, she was my first relationship ever.
I'm guessing therapy is in his future. Story 6. Gaslighting. Mum destroys everything.
She was great fun until she got on meds and started pulling her life together. Her life was actually less tragic when she didn't have ambitions, but on meds she had just enough competence to pursue them, but not enough to come close to accomplishing them. My own life was a goddamn mess too. There was a lot of awful drama. I will always owe her one thing: We spent a terrible, baffling week in the bosom of my family. While it was easy to see her as the antagonist in the emotional storm that developed, it turned out that her antagonism consisted of things like repeating my mother's words back to her and asking her to explain what she meant, which my mom responded to by denying she'd said anything of the kind, even though I'd just heard her say it. And I realized that my mom had been gaslighting me, not just that week, but for decades. When I started demanding that my mom treat me like a human being, it broke our relationship. We never spoke directly for the rest of her life because she wasn't willing to make that concession. I think that the odds are non-trivial that if my girlfriend, and we'd broken up by then, hadn't been there, I would have taken my own life. I've never known anyone remotely like her. Every few years she texts me, and I don't reply.
Want more stories like this? Hit that subscribe button and let's dive deeper into the world of relationships. Story 7. Crazy girl becomes warrior.
I'm writing this as a formerly crazy girl. My first relationship ended in a lot of drama. As misery loves company, it's not like my partners weren't crazy. But I was too. I was the, if you're not coming over this weekend, I will end it all, etc. With each relationship, the violence towards me and from me escalated. When I was 21, I got diagnosed with ADHD, and when I was 23, I recovered from substances and drinking. I did the 12 steps and actually realized what an idiot I've been to some really good people. I've tried to make amends to some of them. The others are still on drugs. And so I don't go there, maybe one day. When I was 25, I was diagnosed with bipolar disease. 1.5 years later, I met the love of my life. He has taught me a lot about love, partnership, and respect. I have never been violent towards him, and he has given me the space I've needed to let him in close. In 2021, the doctors removed my CPTSD after a long and painful therapy. I haven't been hospitalized for depression since winter 2017. And since then, I've had the right type of medications for my mental health. We got married in September 2022, and I have tried so many times to make him do a prenup with me since I can't guarantee I won't become ill again, but he always says later, or changes the subject. I know what I'm capable of, especially if I would take a relapse in habits. We've now been happily married for 1.5 years, and we have good communication about everything. Here's what I've done to take responsibility for myself in our relationship. Stayed clean, taken the medications, and continuing my contacts for mental health, therapy, taking responsibility for my feelings. If I get jealous, for example, I talk to someone else about it and not him. I know he loves me and he might do something different if I say I'm jealous or have controlling behavior from me. I don't want that. Setting boundaries in a respectful way, letting him know what I feel, knowing this is my feeling and not a universal fact. This is what he has done to help me grow. Love me, set boundaries in a respectful way, given me space to feel what I'm feeling and not trying to change it or make it stop. Listened and helped me with what he can. My point is, everyone can change, but nothing changes if nothing changes. I have put down sweat and tears on changing my ways. And if there is dysfunction and your partner doesn't do all they can take their responsibility for themselves, just leave. You can't change anyone else. Also, being bipolar and having ADHD does not define me. It's something I live with. Yes, it affects me, but it doesn't define who I am. Don't know if this was helpful for anyone, but yay, haha.
Story 8. I thought she was into me. Then this happened.
This happened probably 15 plus years ago when I was maybe 20. This cute girl I knew from my hometown moved to a local uni, and since we shared the same friend group back home, we started hanging out. There had been plenty of chatter about her being kind of crazy, but also of her having crappy exes and bad experiences growing up. So I told her I want to take it slow if she wants, thinking, I don't know, would she appreciate that sort of change? She acts like she's real into it at first. Time goes on and we go on a handful of fun, but awkward dates. She ends up getting shady with her communications with me, and I can tell she's stringing me along for some reason. I can tell she's not super interested in me, yet was saying/doing things to try to make me believe otherwise. She must have liked the attention. I stopped contacting her for a while. Eventually she contacts me to hang out again. I agree. We meet up and she's all about me all of a sudden. We went back to my place where I lived with a bunch of mid-20s Irish J1 dudes. One of them has his dad visiting from Ireland. We're hanging out in my bedroom having a boring conversation, and I'm wondering why I do this stupid crap for pretty girls. Things were just starting to get intimate when she said she needed to go to the bathroom. She opens the door, and I see my roommate's dad is just sitting on the counter sipping drinks in the kitchen outside my room. I wait for a few minutes, and this girl comes back into my room with insanity in her eyes. She's got red liquid running down one of her arms and one of my Mach 3 razor blades in her other hand. I'm sure I asked what the hell happened. Are you okay, yada yada? She obnoxiously refuses that anything is wrong and says she doesn't know what I'm talking about. I get towels for her arm and close the door. As soon as the door is closed, she tells me to do her, all while she's messing all over my crap. I was so mad. I tell her no, and that she's fine and needs to leave. Fallout was when my roommates were mad that there was red liquid all over the floor, but I don't remember there being a fuss from her, so silver linings. That old rasher was just sitting there silently sipping drinks and watching the show. Never said a word. We never slept together. Looking back, maybe I should have said yes.
Story 9. She stole thousands and tried to trap me.
Buckle up and read my short story as a warning. My very first GF out of high school, and she was in college. Her mom was also insane and going through a divorce at the time and was moving into an apartment with said GF. At this point, we were dating for maybe 3 months, and the mom asked if I wanted to move in and share a room with her daughter. I was barely 18 but was going to say no. To avoid being rude, I didn't say it on the spot. Mom and GF showed up to my parents' house the next day while I was home alone. The mom forged my signature on the lease, and my dumb self thought I had to go. Turns out the mom is bipolar, diagnosed but not regularly taking the meds, and the daughter dropped out of school while I both started school and work. During this time, she tried pushing away all of my close friends and family and would often make surprise appearances to spend time with them that she was not invited to. Even though she was my first, I can still say 15 years later that the intimacy was great, but I hear that's the deal with crazy chicks. Her mom would fluctuate between I love you and how you are with my daughter to physically trying to throw me out of the apartment. My own mom is amazing, but being hard-headed and refused to let me come back home as this was prime time for a life lesson. Eventually, I got a big boy job and was nearing graduation when my GF borrowed my car to pick me up at the main exit in front of about 50 students I've shared classes with for years with spray paint on my car asking me to marry her. In front of all these people, I said yes, but when we got home, I told her that it's way too early, etc., stalling because I still need a place to continue sleeping. One day I came home from work to an impromptu game night with a friend of hers I'd never met, and apparently they had been planning a triad with me for a month, but of course I found out on the spot. However, I did not refuse. Boys will be boys. By this time I was working long weeks, had school from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., work 3/9/10 p.m., not including the hour drive. And once graduated, I still worked 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., which is important because all my paychecks were physical and had to be deposited physically. GF said she'd deposit my checks into my account, and over the course of the following year, she had skimmed thousands into her own account, thinking that I wouldn't notice. Granted, it took me almost a year to realize pay stubs didn't match deposit history. When I found out, I began setting aside cash of my own, and eventually broke it off, paid the remaining months on the apartment lease, and returned to my parents. That's not where it ends. She then lied about being pregnant. Oddly enough, her dad and I had a good, genuine relationship, and he was a doctor. I called him up, voiced my suspicions, and he said, "Don't worry, man, I got you." She visited him for dinner a couple nights later, and at some point he apparently wouldn't let her leave the bathroom until she took 2 pregnancy tests. He called me shortly after and said he was really sorry for his daughter's wild behavior and that she wasn't pregnant. A couple of weeks later, I found out she had also been sleeping with one of my coworkers when we had different shifts. 3 months later, when I went to buy myself a motorcycle and my previously immaculate credit was denied for a horrible score, she had been using my social and forging my signature to open 3 credit cards which she fully maxed out and made no payments on, and I had to do a full investigation with the credit bureaus which cleared my name/score a few months later, and I bought my bike. Some of my friendships took permanent damage from this relationship, but all of the important ones recovered, and this era is referred to as my prison period.
Story 10. What happened when my date turned violent?
This was many years ago, so we matched on a dating app, talked for a bit, but she decided she didn't want to be romantically involved with me because she was looking for someone who worked in finance.
I was a graphic designer at the time, but she wanted to be friends because I was cool. I wasn't too fussed, said sure, and we were friends. Time goes on, I get to know her more, and she's pretty crazy. Like practiced witchcraft crazy. And also obnoxiously into horoscopes. Like everything I do, she would retort with such a Taurus thing to say, do. Kind of annoying, but I also didn't care enough about her or that friendship to think about it for more than 10 seconds. So a few weeks later, she asked me to come over because she had recently gotten a new dog, but needed help training him. I've trained a few dogs, so I offered my help. She said we could grab dinner, then head to her place. I figured maybe this was more than a friend helping out a friend, but she was crazy hot, so I said screw it. At dinner, she's being super nervous and shy, and admits to having feelings, and I act oblivious and say cool. Go back to her place and things got hot and heavy, and this is where crap went down. She got on top of me, making out, and started getting kinda rough. It progressively got more violent, her biting my lips hard, pulling my hair, clawing my back. I asked her to stop, and she just goes, "Oh yeah, you don't like that," and gets even more violent. I picked her up, threw her on the couch, and drove home. I couldn't even go home alone, so I met some friends who were out, and when they saw me, I was bruised up, teary-eyed. My lip was busted, and I had marks on my back. I couldn't even talk, so I sat there quietly. She apologized that night, and I could see she was being genuine. The next day was wild as well, but I'm getting emotionally exhausted just talking about day one.
I guess crazy hot isn't always a good thing. Story 11. Crazy ex used me for baby, then ghosted.
She used me to get her pregnant just so she could find out if she was still fertile. I thought she was on birth control. Then she got a termination and didn't tell me that either. She found a new boyfriend a month or so before she broke up with me, and when she did, she ghosted me and filed for a restraining order against me the very next day. I hadn't threatened her or harmed her at all. She lied on the court documents and perjured several times, and she got away with it. Currently waiting for the next court date to come up. She messed me up pretty good, and later I found out it was all an act from the beginning, and she lied about everything. Long-term damage will definitely get me. I should have listened to my intuition on the first date when I saw the crazy eyes and got the feeling she was absolutely crazy. Lesson to be learned here. Listen to your gut and always have post-clarity before meeting a new girl. As funny as it sounds, it's totally true. Years ago, a different girl was also crazy as hell, just in a different way. But this one got mad at me because I didn't get mad at her about something she did, and she called me all the bad names in the book, and when I still didn't get upset, she took my new weapon. State law doesn't require it to be locked away or unloaded. It was so new that I didn't have a lock or safe that fit this weapon. I am a good weapon owner, LOL. And she was trying to do something with it, but she doesn't know weapons, and she's not the sharpest. She didn't grab it and aim it or anything, but she pointed it at me and herself several times before putting it in her purse and trying to leave my place. I stopped her from going, and we struggled over the weapon for minutes, and when I got it from her, after it flipped into the air and fell to the ground, thank God it was a double action without a hammer. She then called the cops and said that I was hurting her, and I had a loaded weapon. They come and question me, and I think I'm totally going to jail. Then they started asking me about her and ended up arresting her and taking her to jail. Later, she did not accept the plea deal, and she took it to trial. She lost the case and now has that on her record. I just heard that she's pregnant with a guy's kid. Some guy who used to scream at her in front of her family and used to ditch her to play Xbox with his buddies. So she's still crazy, but she found someone to be crazy with, ha ha ha.
If you want to hear more stories like this, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to leave a comment below. Let's keep the conversation going. See you next time.